sure if any of you folks know about the divestment movement and what a lot of that's brought. And I can understand some of the viewpoints there. Understand this. The overglorification of white men, and this is coming from one, is not good. See, in a lot of my videos on other subjects, I always say, read the damn room. Speaking as a white man, white men are slick. It's not that they're any better, they're slicker. Not every single white man is a Prince Charming. Understand that. Understand that. There's a lot of wolves over here as well. Except with these wolves know how to charm. These wolves have degrees. These wolves are well educated. And a lot of them will take advantage of this. Take advantage of this situation to really push a bad rhetoric that I am noticing. A lot of the divested black women are sounding like Proud Boys. Understand that. And believe it or not, some of them are like wearing Confederate flags and shit. Understand this.
Welcome to my channel. This is Divested Diamonds. You have arrived. Hello, ladies. Please do me a favor and click the like button as you watch this video. Thank you. Thank you kindly. So, welcome to part 2 of the divestment confusion and what a white man said about divestors. Do divestors worship white men? For those of you who haven't seen part 1 of this video, you might want to go back and watch that first for context. This conversation has been long overdue. Sadly, the embarrassing behavior of some women in this space has got a lot of people talking. See, I knew that this day would come, the day when some men of other races would feel compelled to use their power to talk down to black women. We often say that black women are the most disrespected and the least protected, and that's 100% true. The person who posted this actually believes he's doing something good. According to him, he's calling out the BS. What I see here is someone using black women to further his budding YouTube career and using manosphere talking points to degrade and disrespect black women. Black women who belong to a lifestyle that he doesn't understand or agree with. This can be seen in the condescending and authoritative tone used to reprimand a group of adult women. So let's continue with the chat that he and I had. The last thing I showed you was this right here. Now, I can understand him feeling some sort of way about this, but can you prove that any of this is coming from actual divestors? You can't, can you? Because divestment is a mindset that manifests through one's actions. Divestors do not overglorify or fetishize white men. True divestors do not look at men as a walking bag of money. This is what I said to his accusations of me and other divestors supposedly saying that we wanted Courtney Clenny freed, and the lies we're allegedly spewing on Toby Abumseli's name. I see what you're saying. I personally haven't made a video on Christian or Toby or whatever his name was. The only thing I've mentioned is that he said some effed up nonsense about black women while he was alive, and they needed to stand down because his situation was not our business. Any man who disrespects the image of the womb from which he comes deserves to be ignored because the Divine Mother always comes to collect. I know his type, and he was trash. And I make no apologies for saying that. As far as how he lived his life and him being in a toxic relationship with Courtney, that was between them. They were both seemingly abusive to each other. And it wasn't surprising that one of them would eventually meet their demise. I think when people decide to invite negativity into their lives and expel it to others, it comes right back to them, and I call that karma. You're obviously very new to this space and clearly haven't made the distinction between true divestment channels versus those who do it for clicks and views. Not all divestment channels are the same. I tackle real issues that affect Black women. Fetishization of white men is not something I would ever promote. Advising Black women to open up their dating options does not mean fetishizing white men, because there are other races of men in the dating pool. Furthermore, divestment isn't about dating outside your race. It's about removing yourself from toxic environments and focusing on your own growth, especially as a Black woman. We are socialized differently from other women. That is why our journey in life is different from everybody else's. Of course, I'm aware that there are bad people in every race. And I also know that there are a lot of women being misled by the all you have to do is date out and everything will be okay narrative. I'm against that. I have also told some of these women how they need to be careful not to be taken advantage of by men of other races due to the fragile state they're in. As someone who has lived the quote unquote Black experience, for lack of a better term, I understand more about the atrocities that go on in communities of people who look like me. And it behooves Black women to separate themselves from such environments in order to live a productive and safe life away from the childhood programming. Don't worry about being used for money. Most Black women here, myself included, have their own degrees and earn good money. The only reason most Black women are in bad situations is that a lot of these Black men that they choose do not measure up and aren't good with finances or basic masculinity. The so-called Black community has always been a matriarchy, not a patriarchy. So excuse these women for being fed up. Additionally, Black women who are interested in getting married just want to be in respectful relationships where they don't have to take on masculine energy simply because they're having to take care of a loser male. My message to Black women is not to fetishize white men. That's not what divestment is all about, even though the default in relationships involves dating out. The term you're looking for is not divestment. Divestors are all about personal growth, but firstly, understanding the danger that they're in and leaving those situations in search of peace and a better life away from the conditioning of a toxic community. Black men are deleting Black women every 5.5 hours. Wouldn't that be a reason to remove oneself from such toxicity? Also, not all divestors are looking for relationships. We have single, child-free divestors who only care about their well-being and solely focused on healing. Hashtag self-love. And his response to me was, I understand where you're coming from, and I think any man that is getting fully taken care of isn't a man. There are those in the rich white communities, especially my age bracket. I'm 26. See, this made a lot of sense. When he said he was 26, I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But let's continue. So he says that, I'm 26. I understand where you're coming from, and I think any man that is getting fully taken care of isn't a man. There are those in the rich white communities, especially my age bracket, I'm 26, that live at home gaming on mommy and daddy's money, and I respect that your channel doesn't try to push the narrative that zaddy's money will make everything better. There are a lot of dangerous and sick white men in high places that have negatively affected not just Hollywood and child actors, but many other ethnicities. I can understand having bad experiences with a certain demographic and wanting to see what else is out there. But in any type of abusive situation, you want and need to take the time to refine yourself. Refined? And discover yourself before you jump back into the dating pool. There's nothing wrong with interracial dating. I've dated more outside of my race than I have inside it. It's helped me see other things outside of the white community and exploring different avenues in life, as well as seeing another person's perspective. My point being, a general trend that I've noticed, more so with women around my age bracket, is some have gone for bums to make them vanity projects, so to speak. And regardless of race at that, a lot of what you see, especially the younger generation, is a generational problem, as many are growing up pampered and get a slap on the wrist at best for bad behavior. Not all, but many children and youth in society are extremely entitled and feel the world should be handed to them. But there's nothing wrong with self-care. I would never fault anyone for that. My point is, holding on to hate will only hurt you in life. I've learned that lesson very well. Not saying you should change your opinion of black men. After all, your experiences are yours and yours alone. And I cannot say you're in the wrong when in reality, you're the one person that truly knows how those experiences affected you. But you can't let these bad men, whoever they were, to stay in the forefront of your mind. It's just never a healthy thing to do. But to answer your question, as well as Courtney, I do agree with white women should get the maximum penalty for what she did. As white people in general, especially CPs or CPS, whatever that means, I don't know, should face the consequences of their actions and not get the baby gloves because of their status in society. So I do ultimately agree with you on that subject regarding, quote unquote, Becky. This was so confusing. It was so confusing. I don't know what the F he was talking about here. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I was so confused. Child. Lord, the effort that he put in to try and sound intelligent is just, wow, so cringeworthy. But anyway, let's continue. He also said, I'm not saying you shouldn't feel how you feel. What I'm saying is, white people have had a part to play in all of this. Black men that prefer Becky and tell, quote unquote, their brothers how wonderful all white girls are. I don't condone that one bit either. And my response to him was, I agree. And believe me, there are those of us who know that white people have had a part to play in this. We know. We see it. That's why my message is focused on self-love before engaging with any man of any race. I do appreciate your warning. Your info is very helpful. So after I said that, he came back with this. You're very welcome. And understand, I don't want to put anybody down at all. My intentions is obviously holding my race accountable as I feel change with a lot of issues starts with changing white people and not allowing it to continue corruption and creating many issues within the nation. Lord have mercy. The attempt to try and sound intelligent. Why? Now, overall, some people might say, well, he's not completely wrong. He has a point. He seems very well intentioned. I would put my brakes on that because I know that there are people who will ignore his insults to Black women and say, just look at some of the other things he said. He was right. Okay, I don't completely disagree with some of the things he said. However, do you truly think this man is well-intentioned? I would have to say no. Reason being, he's not, quote unquote, calling us out on our shit because he cares about the well-being of Black women and wants us to do better. He doesn't. This is someone who feels disenfranchised by his own people. He feels left out because the system that his people built doesn't include him. I mean, technically it does, but the main issue is that he's not sitting at the top, enjoying the fruits of his people's labor through other people, might I add, because he can't sit at the table with the movers and shakers. He feels some sort of way about that, and it makes him angry. He is your average Joe, probably living from paycheck to paycheck, scraping by. And to his own admission, he works as a landscaper. Nothing wrong with that. But my opinion is that he believes, whether he wants to admit this or not, that he deserves better. He deserves to be in a better place because people who look like him are. Unfortunately, what most people with his mindset don't understand is that white supremacy is a pyramid scheme. You have the movers and shakers who make money and gain power off of the ignorance and misfortune of others. The main point here is to keep a handful of people at the top as they sell the idea of privilege to their own people by instilling in them that you are better than everybody else because of the color of your skin. They use the lower tier of white people to push their agendas and do their bidding while feeding them scraps. Within that group of people, you have those who are gullible enough to fall for it. And then there are those who are able to see through the BS and go their own way by finding their own success away from the programming. Don't get me wrong. People like him still get benefits and will always have priority over you as a Negro. This is why you will find no teeth having trailer park people looking down on successful Black women because they have been bred to believe that even though they aren't allowed at the table, their skin can be used as currency to oppress darker-skinned individuals. Don't get it twisted. These people might get upset at the movers and shakers for the scraps that they're given, but will always align themselves based on race because when it comes down to fighting for a common cause, they know which side their bread is buttered. With that said, you can see how he came to my channel, bulldozing his way into my comment section. Didn't bother asking me to clear up any questions he might have had, but rather came in guns blazing, accusing me of being a fetishist and a white male worshiper. And secondly, the tone he took with me was very condescending and disrespectful. There's actually a moment when he checked himself for a second, only a second, after I responded. But once he got my attention, he continued to lunge at me. And when I wouldn't back down, he eventually realized that his assumptions about me and my channel were wrong. That is why we ended up on a quote unquote friendly note. Well, so he thought. Remember when I said this to him? I agree. And believe me, there are those of us who know that white people have had a part to play in this. We see it. That's why my message is focused on self-love before engaging with any man of any race. I do appreciate your warning. Your info is very helpful. We're going to focus on this right here. Do you think I appreciated what he'd said to me? Do you think that I found his info helpful? I didn't. What he said to me was not appreciated at all. He was rude and out of line. But because I have met men like him before and know exactly how they operate, the best way to shut it down would be to walk away and not engage. I chose to make him believe that he was right and that I appreciated his input because I wanted to see how he would respond to being affirmed. The kicker here is, why would I appreciate anything he had to say? I never asked for his opinion in the first place. He just gave it. He came to my channel acting like a bully. He asserted his dominance by talking down to me condescendingly while sprinkling in little truths that he knew I would agree with. Once I seemingly backed down and gave him the affirmation that he needed, he sat there with a grin on his face, smiling like a Cheshire cat, thinking, mission accomplished. You can see this in his final response to me, which was, "You're very welcome. And understand, I don't want to put anybody down at all." I call BS on that. Remember the white supremacy pyramid scheme I talked about earlier? Who do you think is at the bottom of that? Black women. He came, he saw, he conquered, he left. So he thought. Let's look at the number of times that he said he was a white man, shall we? Now, I do understand that he had to make a disclaimer to let me know that he was a white man, and there's nothing wrong with that. But he also went out of his way to reiterate that fact as an intimidation tactic. When most Black people are confronted by a white person about something, their first instinct is to cower, mute themselves, or treat the white individual with kid gloves. The only time that they get an extreme response is after testing somebody's patience for a while. So his type is used to getting their way. He came here throwing his weight around because I'm a woman. And secondly, a Black woman. They don't fear us like that. So it's easy for them to assert their authority and dominance based on how they view us through the lens of a system that they created. You know, there's always a sense of arrogance when someone knows or thinks that there are groups of women romanticizing the idea of him or men who look like him. Another thing that he kept going on and on about is him coming from a Proud Boy family. Now, he claims that he doesn't agree with any of it, but he mentions that every opportunity he gets, which begs the question, how far removed is he really when it comes to that lifestyle? He mentioned it over and over again because he wanted me to be intimidated by his presence. Now, he can claim not to be a part of it, but what proof do we have that he isn't? Because he hangs around with Black men? Kanye West, aka Ye, has been seen hanging around questionable individuals. What's your point? This man claims to be a truth teller and calls himself the enforcer. What exactly are you enforcing? And why is your enforcement concentrated in Black women's spaces? I see you, okay? I see you. You've done 2 videos on Divestors, and in one of those videos, you said this.
Speaking as a white man, white men are slick. It's not that they're any better, they're slicker.
White men are slick. It's not that they're any better, they're slicker. Like I said, I see you. You are slick. All this, quote unquote, truth telling that you're doing is not fooling anybody. And you can pretend to be, quote unquote, holding your race accountable. But does that include disrespecting Black women? Aligning yourself with Black men and not fully understanding the atrocities caused by them is not calling out the BS. If you really wanted to call out the BS, you could talk about their high levels of deletion when it comes to Black women. You could talk about the high levels of rape and molestation within the so-called Black community. And I'll bet that you haven't done any of that because your quote unquote brotherhood with Black men is built on a foundation of being disenfranchised by the powers that be. You can somewhat relate to each other on that level. You've attached yourself to them so you could trauma bond. But this is where you get slick, right? You are using them as a ladder to gain visibility by pandering and contributing to their hatred of Black women while pretending to be an ally. Attacking Black women and speaking disparagingly about us is a quick cash grab. Those buffoons will give you keys to their souls if they could, as long as you keep pretending that you care about them, because you are exactly what they want to be. You came into this space knowing that. That is what makes you slick. This is why when you did that second video attacking Cara D, it all became very clear. You actually put in your description how if Philip Scott were to ever see your video, he should feel free to take it and use it. Like I said, I see you. You attacking Cara as a male, but especially a male of a different race, doesn't make you different from these Black males who are always online talking badly all day about Black women. How are you any different? You're no better. You are doing the exact same disparaging things that they do to Black women. But you will sit on your channel and talk about how you're the truth teller, how you are the enforcer. Whom and what are you trying to enforce? I don't doubt that you're irritated by some of the overglorification of white men by some Black women on this platform, and I don't take issue with that. It's embarrassing for me as a Black woman, and I don't even engage in that kind of behavior. There are Black women who overglorify and pander to white men in this space. That's a fact. You have every right to find that distasteful and offensive. However, attacking divestors one at a time, because divestors are really who you have a problem with, right? Attacking divestors one at a time in an effort to quote unquote call out the bullshit only makes you look like a beta, disgruntled, bitter manosphere male with self-loathing issues who takes out his inadequacies on an unprotected, marginalized minority group. Nobody is saying that you don't have the right to be offended by being fetishized or worshipped. That's your prerogative. But why don't you speak to those who are actually engaging in that kind of behavior? Why are you picking off divestors one by one? We're not your enemy here. I don't understand why you singled me out or Cara D. And honestly, what did Cara ever do to you? What? She said something you didn't like? Try being a Black woman. People say things we don't like all day, every day. But we aren't always out there attacking people. You're no different from these Black males. And even though you claimed to have dated outside of your race, you certainly don't care about the safety and well-being of Black women, because the fact that you are actively fighting us without facts, with no data, or any other proof of actual divestors engaging in the worship, the overglorification of white men, proves you're only doing this for visibility and using black women as your stepping stone. Please leave us alone. You can tell your friends over at the Manosphere to do the same. We're not your side hustle, and you sure as hell aren't going to be successful trying to get a come up using black women. And if you don't believe me, ask Kevin Samuels, ask David Carroll, ask Alan Roger Curry. Oh, wait, you can't. There's power in the tongue. Remember, the Divine Mother giveth, and the Divine Mother taketh away. Oh, well, you see, one thing I know for sure is you wouldn't behave this way or work this hard, tearing down women in your own community. You wouldn't. But here we are. The other thing I wanted to address was you accusing Cara D of sending these women into the arms of Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy. Not literally, of course. I do get your analogy. So you're accusing her of sending these women into the arms of Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy instead of the quote-unquote deadbeats. That is a very ignorant and vile thing to say. She's never forced anyone to date out. And furthermore, it's very clear that you think black women in this sector have little to no intelligence. You think these women, and I'm speaking of true divestors only here, you think that they don't have the mental capacity to vet men who come into their personal spaces? It's clear that your views of black women's intelligence comes straight off of bigotry and ignorance. You really do think we're stupid, and it shows. The other thing I wanted to address was this, and I'm going to circle back to the chat that you and I had. I can understand having bad experiences with a certain demographic and wanting to see what else is out there. Okay, for a lot of us, this isn't just a case of, oh, black men effed up. Let's see what else is out there. You think that's what this is all about? Black women browsing other communities just to see whose pockets they could pat down and fleece? Your low opinion of black women is mind-numbing, I'll tell you that. The second thing that I wanted to address was this. My point is, holding on to hate will only hurt you in life. I've learned that lesson as well. Not saying you should change your opinion of black men. After all, your experiences are yours and yours alone. And I cannot say you're in the wrong when in reality, you're the one person that truly knows how those experiences affected you. But you can't let those bad men, whoever they were, to stay in the forefront of your mind. It's just never a healthy thing to do. Well, will you look at that? My own personal shrink. What are you even talking about? You sound high as a kite. Thanks for the psychoanalysis, bro. But imagine that. Getting psychological advice from someone who knows nothing about my personal life or experiences. It's the audacity for me. The fact that you think you can come over here and preach to anybody is laughable. The nerve. What makes you think that I hate black men? I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't care enough about black men to have that kind of emotion towards them. I just want them to stay away from black women. They need to stop deleting black women and girls. And since we know that they can't help themselves, we're going to keep exposing that degenerate behavior. Here's something else I observed about this guy. He cares so little about black women to the point where he said,
Finally, the enforcer has come back to YouTube. Who's the enforcer laying the smackdown on? Don't worry, Walt's View, it's coming. Not yet. I have other business to attend to. I'm not defending you, Wellsview. I am, however, defending men of your race. Yes, I'm a white man. Cardi, let me talk to you. This divested movement. Now, I understand some of you ladies feel you need to back away from a certain type of demographic within your community. I understand that. You should avoid gangbangers. You should avoid LaQuisha's too, BM. Black males. You know the type of lady that purposely gets knocked up to trap your ass? Plays all these type of manipulation games on you? Y'all saying, oh, the man should be doing this, this, and that. You are, to an extent, right. You are, to an extent, right. And it's not just males of the black demographic. Males in general need to step the fuck up again. But Cardi, let me bring it back to you. The over-glorification of us white men. Nah. You pretend like we're just some savior, like we're Jesus, like we're gods, like we're kings. There are more broken white households, right? Talk about how the black man leaves y'all with all these kids, doesn't give a fuck. What do you think's going on over here? What do you think's going on over here? What do you think, quote-unquote, Zaddy's doing to Becky's and there's a lot of ladies in general over here? You think it's any different over here? Nah. There's more poverty in the white community. There is more bullshit in general going on over here. I don't know why you think the white man's your savior. Because we ain't. We are not your savior. Understand that. What you're doing is you are pushing young girls in the arms of Ted Bundy instead of a straight thug. What you're doing is you're pushing women in the arms of Jeffrey Dahmer instead of the quote-unquote deadbeat dads. Understand this. There are deadbeats and there are success stories of every demographic. There are, sadly, a ton of racist white men. And that brings me to my point. You say, oh yeah, these white men ain't gonna pick you up if you're about the black man. Nah. Those are the type of white men you need to keep your asses away from. Understand this. Those are proud boys. Those are proud boys. And I can tell you this, ladies, the proud boys might feel that certain type of way about black males. They feel that much stronger about black women, right? Black women. Nah. I'm calling you out on your bullshit today. Free Courtney Clunny. Nah. And you say, oh, you're a white man. You have no place at the table to speak. Oh, when you are contributing to white supremacy, when you're contributing to Proud Boys, when you're contributing to the bullshit on the far right, with Becky getting away with murder, sure, the man was racist, and I don't agree with the shit he said. I don't.
Toby Abumseli was racist, but see, he doesn't care that Toby disrespected and degraded black women because he's doing the same thing. The only difference is he's pretending to, quote unquote, help black women so they don't pick Proud Boys, but I can see through the lies. Like I said in part 1, pay attention to compliments that are wrapped in insults. People like him always want to come off as fair and balanced, but they never are. And he keeps using this Courtney Clunny issue as his main talking point. And it's very interesting as to why he is so invested in Black women's issues besides the obvious. Because according to him, he's currently in a relationship with a woman from his own community. Like I said, this is a money-making scheme and cloud chasing off of the backs of Black women. It's not lost on me that this is something that he threw out there to see if someone would take the bait. He was trolling and probably hoped that one of his divestment videos would go viral. I just don't understand these males who are always in squabbles with women. I wouldn't even call it effeminate at this point. It's a complete lack of testosterone. It's just weird. If you spend most of your time complaining about women and what they're not doing, it might be a time for self-reflection. And another thing he said in his first video was this.
Not every single white man is a Prince Charming. Understand that. Understand that. There's a lot of wolves over here as well. Except with these wolves know how to charm. These wolves have degrees. These wolves are well educated.
They have degrees. They are well educated. And what do you think a lot of Black women are? A lot of us have been to college, university, right? Most of us are educated. And that is why it makes no sense for any of us to keep dating down, even though you think that the only thing we want is quote unquote daddy's money. Black women have been taking care of themselves since the beginning of time. Why do you think a lot of Black men are intimidated? It's embarrassing for them because we have surpassed them in so many ways. While most communities are run by men, the so-called Black community has always been a matriarchy and not a patriarchy. So when it comes down to it, Black women have had to shoulder the burdens of trying to keep things together with no help from men who look like us. Part of that is because they don't care. Another part is that they are not innovators. They don't build anything. They would rather enjoy what men of other communities have built while thumbing their noses at Black women for doing such a terrible job at keeping the so-called community together. The gag is they are completely oblivious to the fact that it makes them look bad as men. It makes them look weak as men. But yeah, keep shoving that foot all the way down your throat, talking about issues you don't understand. And spare me the whole kumbaya, we all need to get along nonsense. The relationship between Black men and Black women, not that it's any of your business, cannot be saved. It's too far gone. You are too green to understand any of this. I mean, literally, your brain just recently solidified. About a year ago, get more life experience and then come back and talk to me. And finally, I know you've heard of passport bros, right? The delusional males who fail to entice quality Black women in America to keep being ride or die chicks for Scooby snacks. Just like you, they talk a lot of nonsense about Black women, except they do it with women of other races, thinking that somehow that's going to get them their desired woman. But guess what? A lot of women aren't buying what they're selling because after exhausting their options with Black women and realizing that Black women are no longer catering to them or entertaining their shortcomings, it was just a matter of time before other races of women saw them for who they really are.
So I know a lot of these passport bros, and especially Black men, are in my comments asking me why I'm talking about this. It's not my fight. And before anything, I'm a woman, so I'm always going to stand up for women regardless of race. And one thing that really bothers me about this is these same passport bros are the men who probably tried to hit on me in the US before they realized that we don't like them either. I'm from a town that really doesn't have that many Asian women, especially Asian women who look like me. Like I said, you guys, I'm adopted. I grew up in a white family in the Midwest, so I have no beauty standards from South Korea. I'm a thick woman. I weigh about 165 pounds. I'm 5'5", so honestly, the brothers like to holler, and they still do. Regardless of what some men in the comments are trying to say, that black men aren't checking for Asian women. Yeah, right. Check my DMs. But anyway, pretty much every time I met a black man, he thought it would be a flex to say something like, yeah, I like my women foreign. I like my women exotic. And I don't know why they decided to say that to me, if they thought it would make me feel good or something, but for me, it's always a red flag. And so I would dig in a little bit further and say, well, what do you mean by that? Like, because I'm a white girl on the inside. My family is white. I grew up in a white community in a small town in the Midwest. So I might look exotic, but I'm Wonder Bread white on the inside. So anyway, whenever these guys would say this, I'd be like, well, you're about to be in for a big disappointment if you're expecting a submissive, docile Asian to take care of you. But it really bothered me when these guys would say, yeah, I don't like black women, because that's what it always came down to, that they didn't date black women regardless if they were black or not. And their moms are black, their sisters are black, their cousins are black. I'm like, would you say this to their face? That's weird. So I kind of pick and prod after I already decided, yeah, I'm done with this, I'm out, because anybody who says something like that just is an immediate red flag. But it always came down to the same stupid stereotypes that black men always have to say about women. They're loud, they're masculine, they don't know how to treat a man, they wear fake hair. So what? So what? You don't have to put down an entire race of women because you have a preference. And honestly, like, I've dated pretty much every race, every ethnicity. I'm Ms. Worldwide when it comes to dating. Only common denominator is black hair and dark eyes usually. But I've never heard any group of men put down their own women more than I've heard black men do it in pursuit of other women. And I just find it really disheartening. And I understand why this divide is getting bigger, but I don't want to be a part of it. So I hate it, and I had to speak on it.
My point here is, if you're not interested in black women, keep it moving and keep it to yourself. This goes for black, white, Asian, and I know Asian is not a race, but stay with me. Latino, and I know that's not a race either. You know what I mean. Keep black women out of it. Leave us alone. There's no need for disclaimers or trying to compare us to other women, because besides our anatomy, we are different. We are socialized differently, and that's okay. Let those who are interested pursue us. And if you aren't, nobody is forcing you to do anything. We are sick and tired of rude, disrespectful men of all races who think that they could just say dehumanizing things while using our spaces as a playground for bigotry. The reason some of you have the audacity to say the shit that you do to black women is because you are the bottom of the barrel in your own communities, and nobody over there wants you. Your women are picky, and you know it. And the limited experiences you've had with black women haven't been great either, because you don't measure up. It's always a shock to some of you once you realize that black women are capable of having standards too. And some of you come here because you truly believe that all black women in this space are desperate. You think that no matter what you say, we will want you because you think we're all plagued with low self-worth. We're not all like that. And since we're putting it all out there, I'll keep it 100 and say this. There are pockets of black women in this space who pedestalize, overglorify, and worship men of other races, especially white men. I've seen it. A lot of other black women have seen it too. And these races of men you are pandering to are seeing it as well. And guess what? It makes us all look bad, even though some of us would never be caught dead partaking in such low vibrational degeneracy. Remember how black women are judged? We don't have the luxury of being judged on an individual basis. When it comes to other people's perception of us, we're all piled together as a group. This is where true divestors need to start divesting from some of these other Black women, the types of women who bring shame to the collective. We don't need that. Nobody does. And despite how I feel about the way this shit show went down, I do agree with him on the part where he said they had a lot of wolves in his camp. Please don't ignore that, because he was definitely right about that. And that is where extreme vetting is super important. The issue with a lot of Black women, especially in this space, is that when it comes to advice of any kind regarding relationships, they will take it literally from anyone. It could be showered with disrespect and hidden agendas, but that's usually ignored. They will cherry pick the few things that are palatable and ignore the underlying messages. They did this with Kevin Samuels and other members of the manosphere, thinking that their lives will be better, but they aren't. When someone like this comes into the Black women's space reprimanding adult women because they said something he didn't like, it's always important to understand why he would be compelled to do that, especially after he has stated that he doesn't care for divestors or divestment. He has also stated that he's a part of the manosphere and supports Black men.
A white man like me, I support the brothers. I support them getting opportunities. It makes the country better. It makes business go better. For a lot of you ladies, not just Black women, but women in general, yes, I'm part of the manosphere. I'm a white man that's part of the manosphere.
And finally, this is to you, Simply Stephanie. I appreciate the shout out on your channel. I really do. Thank you. You didn't have to do that, but it's greatly appreciated. And while I wasn't going to say anything about this, I'm compelled to, due to the fact that this is not the first time you've rubbed me the wrong way. You seem to have an issue with people calling themselves divested, and that's your prerogative, okay? I don't care about that. But to say that I'm a part of a clique is something I do not appreciate. The reason why most women in this sector do not deal with you is because you come off as negative, abrasive, combative, and toxic. You seem to think that you know what's best for all Black women, but you don't. Let people live. I'm a very calm individual and don't like drama, but I will not tolerate shade, bullying, or disrespect from women who are incapable of being happy for other women. We are all here in our own capacity as adults. There's no need for snarky little comments because you think that you know better than everybody else. Nobody likes a busybody. You have a lot to say about a lot of content creators in this space, and it's mostly negative. What happened to Black women not being a monolith and just allowing others to thrive? Now, I understand that you have your opinions on things, and that's fine, but I will not be bossed around or mothered by someone like a child. Last I checked, I was an adult and don't appreciate being told what to do. I think that you would probably get more positivity out of other women when you don't try to micromanage them. We are all adults here, and that has to be respected. That's all. On that note, what are your thoughts on what's been discussed here today? Please leave your thoughts and comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And remember, ladies, getting in touch with your emotions in order to shed some of that excess baggage is very important. Learning to love yourself is a journey most Black women struggle with. It can be hard, but not impossible to achieve. Keep working on yourselves by eliminating anything in life that doesn't allow you to operate as your higher self. Divestment is an ongoing process that requires mental strength, self-love, tenacity, and self-acceptance. Divestment is a state of mind that begins and ends with you and has nothing to do with anybody else. Thank you so much for watching. This is Divested Diamonds, and I'll see you next time. Bye, Diamonds!